You've already given me so many answers. Every time I think of a question out there, the answer just comes as you're talking to others.
Yeah.
My current question is about being weird. I really value being weird, being oppositional, being different. When I see people that are either have tattoos or they go to Burning Man or I like to watch videos on YouTube of people jumping off of cliffs or whatever. I want to be that. I want to be the weird one. And a lot of my friends think that I am, but I want even more of it, but I'm ashamed. To give an example, what if I were to be really weird? What if I wanted to get naked right now? That would be too weird. So I want to be weird, but I want to be sane and safe. And I just don't know where to draw the line.
We like weird too, but we also do have that line.
Yes.
Consider this, because you gave all the answers in your question, which is a really common thing that happens, because on one end of the stick is wanting to know something, and on the other end of the stick is the absence of it. And when you focus upon what you can't figure out, what you want to figure out starts lighting up already, even right in the middle of it. And so let's chew on this just a little bit. You said something that points out a significant flawed premise that you've got going on, that we think is the hindrance that you're trying to describe. Because you said, I like being oppositional. And we want to talk a little bit about, because what we know you to mean, or what we would mean in a similar conversation, is you want to be first and foremost in alignment with who you are, which makes you seem to be oppositional with a lot of people. When you're choosing this mutuality, that means you're not choosing this or this or this or this or this. But let's talk about why. In a world that is looking for you to be there for them, or for you to understand them, or for you to join them to fight the battle against the imaginary foe, there are so many that want you, no matter what, to just come where they are. You use the word safe. They feel safety somehow in that, or they think they do, some version of it.
They want my power. They want to bring my power to their level to help them contribute.
What you want is
I want independence.
or to let them be whatever they're choosing to be. Yeah. And so the battle that you're feeling, the struggle that you're feeling, is you're not trying to break out into weirdness. You're trying to break into unequivocal freedom. You use the word. You're wanting to break into unequivocal clarity. In other words, you're not wanting the confusion of whatever they've got going on. This could not have been a more meaningful seminar for you to come with that powerful desire within you than this one, where we are just today talking about this mutuality, because you all have a choice all the time. You can be in steady, not constant, because contrast is a very helpful thing, but in steady vibrational mutuality with your inner being, or in less than steady mutuality with your inner being. In other words, it comes down to, you can use your awareness of what that frequency feels like and what your relationship with it feels like as your guiding star or your emotional guidance system, and you can strive for it and accomplish it and strive for it and accomplish it, or you can be sloppy in your thinking and then just take whatever comes. And most people are not reaching for that, but you innately know when you are not there. So what's come from that, we're going to hear you in just a moment, but what's come from that is that you've come to call this mutuality weird, and just resonating with anybody else who's reaching for you in any other way, normal. And you were really born to be weird. You really were.
Yeah. You are a total inspiration to me, because probably 90% of the people I know or more think that you are weird, crazy, batshit crazy. And You know, when I first found out about you, I was there. But I have come to learn that you not only are weird in a good way, like you're living your dream and you're unique and you're powerful and you are who you are, but I've also come to learn that you're doing it safely. Like what you do is okay. You're not breaking any laws.
We are not oppositional.
Yeah, even though the 90% of the people...
But hear that, we are not oppositional. We are in alignment with what we are in alignment with, and we are pushing against no one.
Yeah, I want to learn how to do that. I want to learn how to be myself, but also not be afraid of those 90% of the people that won't like it, and also not, you know, break any laws or do anything unsafe.
If you want to think about it in a practical sense, what does finding mutuality with them get you? Can you ever think of a positive outcome from you lowering your vibration and joining someone else in resistance?
I call it codependence, and I've been fighting it for my whole life. I'm dependent on their approval, and you can't please everybody because everybody's different.
So now let's talk about something really practical. If you just put it in these simple terms, is it more satisfying to have clarity or to have confusion? Is it more satisfying to have love or hate? If you just ask the satisfaction question for a little while, you'll come to realize that it all adds up. It's all consistent. Your true power is in alignment. We've been saying that for a while, that when you are really in sync with who you are, there's a leverage in that and you can feel it. But we know what you're talking about because it's just words until you meditate and know you've quieted your mind. It's just words until you've felt your vibration raise, and then you have received an impulse and followed it and it paid off. It's just words. But once you begin to find a consistency in your relationship with your inner being, and you let that rise to the most significant level, and you let everything else take a back seat to that, so that you decide that you're just going to be true to you no matter what, then what you begin to notice is a good number of them rise and join you, and those that aren't ready to just vibrate out of your experience and are not an issue.
Yes, I've seen that with you. I mean, look at all of this. It's like, it's amazing how much love is poured out on you and your being.
Because it's natural to feel good.
Yeah, you're doing your dream.
It's natural to feel good.
Yeah.
The thing that is interesting and a little humorous, and maybe it'll make you laugh, and if we were prone to laughing, we would laugh, but we don't laugh because nothing ever surprises us. But we think this is worth considering, worth thinking if maybe there's a laugh in it somewhere for you. There's an irony in that law of attraction is so consistent, and humans are so surprised at the consistency of law of attraction. It's like once you get hold of the law and you understand, then you get why that happened and why that happened and why that happened, and nothing ever surprises you anymore. Everything just makes perfect sense to you. And so the thing that we think is a little bit humorous is that people find it odd that if it feels good, it is. It's like, how did that get messed up in the human equation? Okay, we'll go onto planet Earth, and just remember, if it feels good, run from it. And if it feels bad, totally embrace it. And the worse you feel, the more pain you suffer, then the better it will be for you later. And humans say, okay, I can do that. And then they see happy ones and they say weird. And they say miserable ones and they say life.
I feel like I know 100 ways to feel good, and I feel good all the time. I'm great at feeling good, but I'm also great at feeling guilty that I feel good. And I think, what would my family think of me?
And you call us batshit crazy. doesn't make any sense at all. You can't feel good and guilty at the same time. Pick one and own it.
I'm there.
Pick one and own it. You don't feel good and guilty at the same time. You feel good or you feel guilty. You feel satisfied or you feel guilty, but you don't feel that.
When I think of others, then I feel guilty. Like I did a 3-week trip to India by myself. That felt good. But then when I thought of leaving my girlfriend behind, it felt weird. I just quit a job that was, really well paid, like awesome job that everybody was proud of me, and it felt great to quit it. But now I'm worried, there's a part of me that just thinks, do they think poorly of me for, do they think I'm an idiot?
You are hitting upon the most important consequence and the most important subject that we talk about all day, every day. What you're talking about is how through your interaction with one another, you have replaced your own guidance system with each other. And the replacement is truly deficient.
It's hurt. It has hurt.
But think about why you do it. When someone holds you as their object of attention, and they're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, they're feeling good, and they're holding you as their object of attention, it feels good to you when that energy is flowing all over you. And so we get why you would think that alignment has something to do with the way others are looking at you. And that's also why when someone who has loved you and felt that way about you then gets out of whack, disconnected, is not connected to source, that then when they hold you as their object of attention and what they see disappoints them, it's easy to understand why you would take that personally, because you gave them the power to grant you
yeah.
And then when they're not giving it to you, you assume that you deserve it. That's big. We call that looking for love in all the wrong places.
That's me.
But you see, now you're too smart for that.
Yes, I'm growing out of it. You have helped me for the last year.
Let's just ask you a few questions. And we're not trying to put words in your mouth. We're just asking for the logic that life has presented to you, because words don't teach. It's only life experience that teaches. Does it feel logical to you that you and others, the human race or the consciousness that is focused here on this planet, is more than just the physical, biological becoming that you are? In other words, are you more than the flesh, blood, and bone? Is there a consciousness that
Definitely, I have a consciousness, yeah.
Does it feel to you that the consciousness extends beyond the boundaries of this physical apparatus?
Sure.
So the idea of a soul, the idea of something that came before, and the idea of something that will be afterward is something that is a comfortable and maybe even logical concept.
I'm still
all right, so let's talk about that. We get that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So do you think that humans are brilliant?
Yes.
And have you managed to scrape enough dirt together to launch another planet into orbit?
Possibly. I think dogs are brilliant too.
But what we're asking is, do you see evidence of greater consciousness than what is demonstrated by humans on this planet? In other words, can you explain your position in the universe? Can you explain the Earth spinning in its orbit? Can you explain that from the perspective of what man knows about things? And so isn't it logical that there is something more that you are all a part of?
Yes.
And so if there is something more that you are all a part of, does it feel logical that it would have extended before you all got here and that it will continue after you all are here? And can you feel at times that you tap into a consciousness that provides for you more clarity than the pieces of what you were about just now deserve?
Yes. Personally, I have different labels for those things that you're talking about. And I just call it reality. Like all the stuff that's not mine, that I don't control, that's that consciousness that can help guide me and that'll be there after me and that was there before me. But I'll label it as nature, reality, truth, whatever.
And what's the rest of it? What do you call the rest of it?
I used to call it God or Jesus or whatever.
All right, that's all right. And what's the rest of it? In other words, what's the physical stuff? What are you calling it?
physical stuff. Haven't labeled that, I
Well,
guess.
that's because there is this source energy that extends into all of this, and it is all one. And when you let all of that magnificence and all of that clarity and all of that love and all of that knowing, when you let that flow to you and through you here, then you begin to understand this humanity a little bit better too. When you accept, in the moment that you accept that this time-space reality is the manifestational creative haven, that this is where thoughts turn to things, then it's easier to accept the existence of the thoughts that came before the things, and it's easier to accept your role as a creator in the extension, in the expansion, in the continuation of all this creation.
Yes. I think like there's the world, the physical part that you talked about, there's all the other people, and there's me, and I can create my part in all of that. Like that's the God or whatever, and I'm a co-creator. I'm with them.
So when you think about the way we break it down for you, because the reason that you all summoned us into this environment is because you were getting some of it. You were seeing what you were observing, and most were just comparing the physical experiences to the physical experiences and not really understanding why some experiences were obviously better than others. You couldn't quite make it out because a lot of you were keeping the rules that you believed should cause you to have blessings, and you weren't getting any. And there were a lot of other people breaking the rules that should have kept them from blessings, and they were being blessed. So you began to feel disillusioned, like there's more to the picture than all of it, than you were understanding. And so we came into your environment to explain to you that you are an extension of source energy, and that you have a reason for being this extension, that you came on the wings of energy, on the wings of source, on the wings of clarity. You came with great reason. Nobody got here accidentally, and you came because you knew that the variety would inspire you, genius and unique you, to a preference that would go beyond what is. You knew that new desire would be born within you. You knew it was a slam dunk. You knew that it could not be otherwise. You knew new desire would be born within you. When your consciousness was all non-physical, before you were thinking the way you do here, you knew that when those new desires were born within you, that they would emanate vibrationally from you, and that the entire universe would expand as a result of your participation on planet Earth. And that was such a satisfying thought to you. You knew the power and the value of that. So then we explained to you, so when that happens, when you launch that rocket, source stands right there with it and becomes the vibrational equivalent of it, and offers a vibrational frequency that is all about you. It's who you were before you came, and it's now the amended version of you since you've had life that caused you to ask for more. So the point of attraction, you, by your exposure to life, created a more potent, expanded point of attraction. Your point of attraction evolved. You didn't at first. You're still complaining about the stuff that made you ask for the new stuff. But your point of attraction did expand, and your inner being takes delight in standing in the middle of your new point of attraction. So now the law of attraction, which most humans didn't know much about, you were saying birds of a feather flock together, and you had some sense of how things were. He called a lot of it karma. So your inner being is standing in this newly expanded place, and law of attraction is now responding to that new point of attraction. And so you have partially expanded. The physical you caused the expansion, but the physical you is lagging behind. And when the physical you lags behind the true you, you feel negative emotion, which is what your guidance system is. Now when you put two and two together, when you accept that premise, and you begin to acknowledge that you have a desire that you're working against with your beliefs or your thoughts, and then you stop doing that, and you feel the relief of stop doing that, and you feel the satisfaction of stopping doing that, and you come into alignment, and then you watch the power and the majesty and the magic of the universe as you become a more powerful, clear person. Not only do you feel better when you stop doing that thing that you were doing that kept you split apart from who you really are, not only do you feel better, but now things start moving. Obvious things start moving, things that others may call weird, but you can see the consistency in it, because unlike most things that physical people believe in, this doesn't get squirrely on you. It's not inconsistent. It doesn't like you sometimes and not like you others. It's not arbitrary. It's not inconsistent. It's consistent. It is something that is so solid and so consistent that it is godlike. It is always love, and it is always energy, and it is always clarity, and it's always right there. You always have access to it, provided you do that thing that is important that you do in order for you to know that you're doing it, you see. So we're not asking anybody to make stuff up. We're not asking anybody to have faith in things that they can't see. We're asking you to take a few simple premises that only make sense to you and focus upon them just a little while with a consistency of thought, and then watch how everything in the universe will show you its consistency with these things. There is not one shred of evidence in all of the universe to the contrary of what we're talking about here. And when you show that to yourself, you become empowered. Now you're enlivened. Now you're not trying to get the opinion of billions of people on the planet. You're not now seeking, do you like me now? 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 It's not about that.
Guilty.
What you're doing instead is you're finding a thought that's satisfying, and another thought that's satisfying, and one that isn't so satisfying, and a thought that's satisfying. And then you start putting two and two together. You start watching what the satisfying thoughts produce in your life, in your body, in your world, in your mind, in your clarity, in your consciousness, in your pocketbook, in the way you flow through life. You start watching the consistency of your consistency until you prove to yourself that you can create your own reality. And then this invincibility comes over you. You watch others that are still dabbling in it. They're not focusing. They're not even trying. They're going where the wind blows. If there's a mob that's pushing against this, they do. If there's a mob that's pushing against that, they do. They stand in resistance all day, every day, or most days. They pinch themselves off from the clarity as really who they are. And then they wonder, will it be better when I die and go to heaven? And we say, once you get hold of this and you see the consistencies of the laws of the universe, and more important, you teach yourself what influence you're under, because you are a transmitting and receiving mechanism, which means your tuner is always broadcasting, which means you're always going to match up with something. You can't be broadcasting and not match up. Well, are you matching up with people that are pushing against? Are you matching up with haters? Are you matching up with people who feel vulnerable? Are you matching up with source energy, who knows your invincibility and your worthiness, who loves unconditionally? What are you matching up with? And so that's why we think that this dash card is such a wonderful thing. Under the influence of what? Am I under the influence of CNN, or am I under the influence of my inner being? Am I under the influence of source energy, or am I under the influence of those who are impoverished? What am I under the influence of? And once you make the connection, and this is the piece that we're so happy about that we are having together today. Once you make the correlation between that receiving mode, which matters so much because it is the life that you've always lived, it's the life you've come to live, it's the life that you've come to share, it's who you are, it's the whole of you. It matters so much that you hook up with who you are. Once you put together, once you make the connection between that receiving mode and the feeling of satisfaction, now you're home free. You see, satisfaction is such a mild emotion, and you can find nearly in every moment, we are certain there are exceptions, but nearly in every moment you can acknowledge, is this satisfying or not? And if it is satisfying, your acknowledgement of it will cause the momentum of it to increase, and a consistent and steady application of that question and answer will bring you into a consistent receiving mode. And when you're in the receiving mode, all things are clear. You discover that you can follow your bliss and have money too. You discover that you can have clarity and lots of surprise and delight too. Helpful?
Very helpful. Thank you.